They say ignorance is bliss. They're wrong. What's up guys, Frankie here. Welcome to another episode of The Money Resolution, where we resolve to get good with money so we can earn our time back and live a more rich life. Before I proceed with the video, a quick rating. This video is rated KIP because knowledge is power. The more you learn, the more you earn. These are just facts. If you're part of the roughly half of Americans that couldn't come up with $2,000 in 30 days for an emergency, this video is for you. If you're not sure how to get started with tackling debt or your finances in general, this video is for you. And even if you already think you're a finance ninja, this video is still for you because you're going to see how there are layers to this whole thing that applies to everyone, even myself. We all have room for improvement. And this big idea really does go far beyond finances. Anyway, stick around until the end because I'm not just here to talk about one big problem, I'm also here to offer 5 concrete solutions to help you overcome it. But you know the drill, you don't get what you don't ask for, so please consider liking this video to send some positivity to the algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't and you want to see more from me showing up in your feed. And always feel free to share your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Did this resonate? Did this pump you up? Do you totally disagree? All that's fair game. All right, let's get to it. The real reason people are bad with money is because of a little thing known as the ostrich effect. According to this really wonderful article from the Decision Lab, which I'll link below, quote, "The ostrich effect describes how people often avoid negative information, including feedback that could help them monitor their goal progress. Instead of dealing with the situation, we bury our heads in the sand like ostriches. This avoidance can often make things worse, incurring costs that we might not have had to pay if we had faced things head on." I'm sure the financial implications are already obvious, but it actually originated from investing for a reason you might not expect. Originally, it was coined based on attempts by investors to avoid negative financial information due to fear of negative performance. Studies show that investors check their portfolio far more often when the market is up than when the market is down. This is a psychological response to what we know to be bad news, and it's human nature to avoid information that can be upsetting. Funny enough, I actually think it's a good strategy when it comes to investing to keep your head in the sand altogether. I always recommend investing in index funds that track either the S&P 500 or the total stock market, and to invest a set amount at a set interval no matter what. This is called dollar cost averaging. Then ignore the market completely. Set it and forget it. Just stay the course. In the long run, the market always goes up. Honestly, I almost never know what's going on with the market. With a plan in place to achieve long-term goals, I've developed an aversion to receiving all information, especially information about a down market, because those losses are temporary. People often forget you don't lock in losses unless you sell your investments when they're down. Understanding historical performance, which is honestly as easy as looking at this chart, is all I need to know to feel 100% confident going forward, no matter what. So when the market took a huge downturn early 2020 when the illness hit, and especially 2009 when the housing market crashed, smart long-term investors knew to avoid the news and fear-inducing headlines. If you're investing for the long run, it's best to not get caught up in the weeds of the day-to-day volatility. Burying your head in the sand can actually be good in this one specific scenario. But obviously today I'm here to talk about a different side of the ostrich effect as it pertains to your overall financial health and why it's the biggest reason most people are bad with money, plus how to overcome it. Now, this definition has widened and is commonly used in reference to people that avoid exposing themselves to negative information in fear of it causing psychological discomfort. Many people hide information or ignore their problems because the truth can hurt or at least be extremely uncomfortable. It is human nature, after all, to run away from threats or be scared of the unknown. And this happens all the time in real life. As kids, we were always scared to get test scores back or to get that report card in the mail. You better just run and snag it and hide it and forget about it just to be safe, right? As adults, it's often terrifying to get health tests back. Some people actually avoid the doctor altogether. Performance reviews at work can cause anxiety, even though the feedback could help you grow and eventually help you get promoted to earn more money. And I also learned in researching this video that 30% of people on a weight loss program have never stepped on the scale. And over half of Americans don't know their annual interest rates on their credit cards. Don't mistake this for laziness. Again, This is human nature to avoid difficult situations and bad news. We all hate losing, we protect our ego, and we're afraid to change our beliefs. This all reminds me, by the way, of Wile E. Coyote. Whenever he finds himself totally outwitted by that darn roadrunner, he'll often admit defeat by doing something like pulling the shades down when he's staring at a train barreling down on him with dynamite on the tracks. He can never win, can he? We sympathize, though, because we relate. But his situation, like many of life's bad situations, was avoidable. So let's dig into this a bit today, because the reason most people are bad with money is that they don't understand their financial situation because they avoid it. They don't log into their accounts, they don't track their spending, and they don't set goals. People hide from reality. They bury their heads in the sand. Then they come up and wonder how they reached 5 figures in debt. They fail to understand during all this that they're robbing from their future selves by not paying attention. And they're definitely missing out on the benefit of time in the market as it pertains to investing. Time can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Compound interest is great when you're invested and your money is growing exponentially, but time can be a jerk of a friend when compound interest is working against you. Think yucky credit card interest rates. And if you know me, you know I can relate. I ignored my financial situation until January 1st, 2018. In the back of my mind, I knew it was bad, but I thought, I'll deal with this later. And I did, but it took years of commitment to dig myself out of a hole and make up for decades of lost time. I guess I'm proof that you technically can deal with it later, but I missed out on years and years of investment growth that I'll never get back. Trust me, I get it. Getting organized can be hard. Knowing your net worth or your credit score can be terrifying. And investing, nope, not touching that with a 10-foot pole, right? But compounding the problem is the fact that talking about money has become so incredibly taboo. Most people feel like they have nobody to talk to about it. We don't know who to trust. We feel alone and we feel embarrassed. And you know what? It's not our fault they didn't teach this stuff in school, but these are simply excuses, as I found out the hard way. The ostrich effect is holding people back, putting people in debt, and it gets worse when ignored. But it also affects people that are just okay with money or even good with money, but could be even better. We all have blind spots. We all have room for improvement. No, they didn't teach this stuff in school. That's why I encourage people to be continuous learners when it comes to personal finance. It's not a stretch to say that many people, okay, most people aren't preparing for their future. The data doesn't lie. 63% of people are living paycheck to paycheck in the United States, and I've seen numbers as high as 78%. But it's not all doom and gloom. Don't worry, I promise this video has a positive ending. But first, I do want to talk about a simple finance best practice that many people ignore, the emergency fund. Ostriches justify kicking this can down the road by saying to themselves, well, I haven't had an emergency in years, so I'm unlikely to have one in the next few years. And you know what? I had that thought too when I was 22 years old. But within a 5-year stretch, all of this happened. My cat needed a $2,000 surgery. My car got vandalized and towed twice. Those come with parking tickets too, by the way. My grandpa passed away and I suddenly had to find a last-minute flight for the funeral. I got scammed out of $400 cash trying to buy tickets to a playoff football game. My best friend decided to get married in Hawaii, which may not sound like an emergency, but it certainly felt like one at the time financially. I changed careers by going back to grad school and taking out way more loans than I should have. And after that, my first seasonal job actually was seasonal, despite my denial, and it ended suddenly. I actually had to shorten this list for the sake of time, and I'm not just unlucky or dumb. Far worse things can happen and do happen because life happens. So, unofficial positive step 1, get financially prepared for emergencies. Even setting aside $1,000 that you will only touch when an emergency comes up is a massive step and will help you sleep at night, I promise. And by the way, my goal is never to make anyone feel bad about any decisions they've made in the past. Absolutely learn from any mistakes, but let it go. I have. That's why I'm comfortable sharing my personal stories. Just take it one day and one action item at a time, because there's nothing more relieving than knowing that you took that first positive step in the right direction. And if you're looking for a sign, this is it. And beyond not having an emergency fund, here's how the problem worsens for people that ignore their finances. They don't invest, or they don't invest enough towards retirement. And again, time is your best friend when it comes to investing. A 10% return for 20 years generates more money than a 20% return over just 10 years. And not contributing towards a company match, by the way, is just throwing away free money. The ostrich effect means people continue to not know what they don't know. And this is called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people lack enough basic financial knowledge to even realize that they're making mistakes. People's lack of understanding about things like compound interest and inflation can lead them to believe they're making good financial decisions, when in reality, they're making things worse. Further ignoring finances can lead to succumbing to lifestyle creep, where as you earn more, your spending also increases. Some might call that a good problem to have, but no, it's a problem, because as you earn more, you should absolutely save and invest more, not get better at spending more. A recent study showed that 18% of people earning six figures are still living paycheck to paycheck. People think, I deserve it, I worked so hard. But again, they're only stealing from their future selves, which might end up delaying retirement. And finally, people develop bad money habits that stick, like impulse buying. As an example, they congratulate themselves for saving $20 on a pair of $100 jeans instead of admitting that they just spent $80. With the ostrich effect, people would rather feel good about saving money than looking closely at their spending. You get the point. Ignoring your finances is bad, but what's good? I'm also here, like I said, to give you 5 specific strategies to help you overcome head in the sand syndrome. And none of these are going to be the obvious that you often hear, like create a SMART goal, set a budget, follow the 50-30-20 rule. All right, tip number 1, develop mindfulness. Just being aware of the problem is really step 1. Ask yourself some challenging personal questions like, what am I really afraid of? Or my favorite here, if I were giving my friend advice about the same situation, what advice would I give them? For the first question, you might be a bit surprised yourself with what you come up with here. It could just be fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of feeling helpless. Oftentimes, what we're fighting with externally or internally isn't the actual problem. There's something else beneath the surface causing the issue. And I just love that advice for a friend example, because I would never tell a friend to ignore their situation, so why would I do it myself? It really does offer instant perspective as you strip away emotion. Tip number 2, get exposed. The exposure effect is real, and it means that things become more likable as we expose ourselves to them more often. So taking just 5 minutes a day to look your financial fears in the face or confront a blind spot is an excellent starting point. You might find the situation isn't as bad as you thought, or you might find a couple of quick wins that helps you build momentum. So punch fear in the face and set a streak as a goal. See how many days in a row you can spend 5 minutes working on your finances and create a fiscally responsible way to celebrate after. I guess I'm sort of giving you a bonus tip here, which is to gamify it. But exposure is critical. It's the best way to conquer fear. It's like being convinced there's a monster under your bed as a kid. The first time you got the courage to look, you probably had extreme relief. The 10th time you looked was the last time you believed in monsters. And by you, I mean me. It's replacing imagination with real-life data consistently. Number 3, develop a long-term mindset. When trying to improve your financial life or even trying to scale your investments, know that you will experience setbacks. And that's okay when you have a long-term mindset. Turning a bad financial situation around is going to take some time. Completing goals takes time. Building wealth or starting a business takes time. The same is true when losing weight. It's consistent action with a long-term approach that dictates a successful result. And as hard and challenging as things can feel in the moment, I like to picture myself in the future looking back on the journey with extreme satisfaction. This is also a good time to establish why you're doing something. Why do you want to improve your financial situation? What would it mean to succeed? Don't be in a hurry though. That will get overwhelming fast. Tip number 4, help yourself or ask for help. Admit that you don't know what you don't know and get started by getting educated. Just start learning, understand the situation. It's beautifully simple as a first baby step. That's what I did my year of getting good with money in 2018. I found a finance podcast I loved, The Stacking Benjamin Show, and I listened to it every day. And eventually I had a few aha moments that propelled me into action. And I wasn't expecting that, but just learning helped me overcome my fear. The second thing I did though, was I got a library card and I put a dozen books on hold. There are so many free resources available, but it has to come from a genuine place of curiosity. Get curious and get knowledgeable. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my 2 books. My first, The Money Resolution, is perfect for beginners, and my second, Money You Can Hack It, is full of creative ways to grow your wealth. So links to both of these in the description down below, plus a free digital link to my second book. Open up about your finances. Talk to somebody. I do this with my fiance during what we call money parties once a month. Check out my video on that if you want to learn more. You can ask family or even a close friend for help or advice. You can seek out a professional. You can even contact work. You might be surprised about how willing HR is to point you in the right direction. You can even talk to me. So go to themoneyresolution.com/coach and fill out a quick form. And at some point in 2021, I'm going to get back into finance coaching. I'm not a professional, but I am a money nerd. I listen well, and I can be an excellent thought partner to get you started or nudge you in the right direction in a super comfortable environment. So get in touch if this video and my thoughts on all this speaks to you. In the meantime, you can also go to themoneyresolution.com/resources, and you can get all my freebies in one place. I just finished updating that, tons of goodies there. And finally, tip number 5, automate. A really nice, easy way to get started is to automate your bill payments. That way, you're never gonna miss a payment and get hit with even more fees and penalties. You can also automate your savings. So increase your work retirement contribution just 1% or commit to setting aside $100 into savings as soon as you get paid. Personally, I've also found ways to automatically make time for learning throughout my day. When I take the dog out for a walk or work out, I automatically use that time to listen to educational podcasts or audiobooks, and I watch finance YouTube videos when doing the dishes. And what's great about automation is that it's actually a beautiful foundation to build on. Most of my financial wins to this day happen automatically. Push forward with positivity and confidence, and take it one day at a time. Like me finally pulling through and finishing this video. Remember, it's okay to be vulnerable and admit to struggling or needing help. I think this video was the one I probably struggled to pull together the most. I spent days researching. I started over 3 different times because I had the opposite issue, too much information and analysis paralysis. But at one point I did bury my head in the sand and put this out of sight and out of mind for a few days. But ultimately I committed and overcame my personal doubts and fears about what other people think or what they're gonna say in the comments. And while this video may not be perfect, I realize ego is the enemy and done can be better than perfect. And even if you're way past the beginner stage, and I know a lot of people are that watch my channel because I talk a lot about early retirement, I still challenge you to continue to think about the things you don't know or parts of your financial life that you ignore. We all have blind spots, either fears that hold us back or gaps in education, things that keep us up at night. Mental monsters. Focus on doing what you've been ignoring. Learn about challenging financial topics that you've been avoiding. Focus on bringing light to your financial fears. Focus on self-improvement, because getting stronger in an area of strength is good. But if you turn an actual weakness into a strength, you will be great, possibly unstoppable. And if it's all dark and dim because you avoid all things money, like many, get started. A commitment to yourself and that first step is the hardest, but only an object in motion can gain momentum. Gradually, then suddenly, you will succeed if you stick with it. We all hate losing, guys, but ignoring a problem or issue is the only guaranteed way to lose. I hope this helped motivate you to get started or keep going, and hopefully this provided some clarity for your next steps. By the way, if you want to know more about gaining financial clarity, check out this video I made a few weeks back. If you want to know more about early retirement strategies, usually extremely happy and positive and full of bad jokes, be sure to subscribe. I put out videos twice a week to help inspire and hopefully motivate people to get resolved about getting good with money. Like if you liked, it truly does help me out. And I'd love to read your reaction, your thoughts, your questions in the comments below. What's something you'd like to learn more about? What are blind spots that you know you have? Share this video with someone that you think needs to hear all this. But if nothing else, remember this. Ignorance isn't bliss. It's still ignorance. Curiosity is king and knowledge is power. Every day you're moving forward or backwards financially. Move forward today. I truly appreciate those of you that made it to the end. I value your time more than you'll ever know. My name is Frankie. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you all in a few days on the next one. Thanks. And as some of you may know or have already said in the comments, yes, I know that ostriches don't actually bury their head in the sand when they're scared. That's totally a myth. And I also learned, did you know, that pigs don't sweat? Everything we know is false, you guys, but the truth is out there. X-Files, I don't know. See you guys.